WICR. We're now on Live 365 and Ustream.com. Just search WICR and like us on Facebook. Facebook.com/WICR Iona College Radio.
Hello, Iona College fans listening around the country. Jersey Joe and Big Shot Rob here, and we're rolling along with our show. If you're just tuning in now, you just missed. We did our NFL thoughts, everything we thought about Week 2. That will be posted later to our Facebook, to our YouTube, everything under the sun. So follow us on all those mediums. I'll give the plug out again at the end of the show, but we're gonna move into our college football thoughts on Week 3. Honestly, very weak slate of early games. I mean, from the 12 o'clock, but 3 o'clock on after the South Carolina-Georgia game, we had some really nice games. So I want to start off with that, with the South Carolina and the Georgia game. Very competitive game. I picked Georgia to win this game, but you saw at the end of the game, this was very close. Georgia did have a chance to win the game. South Carolina, though, a very big win at home. Dylan Thompson played a very good game. I mean, I was a little disappointed with Dylan Thompson the way he started off. I thought he was going to have a tremendous year. Very disappointing first game against A&M, but Dylan Thompson played very well in that first game. And I think you see from Georgia, Todd Gurley is just unbelievable. Man, I think in the Heisman conversation, all we're talking about so far is quarterbacks. I mean, Brett Hundley, Marcus Mariota, Jameis Winston. But Todd Gurley has got just as much a chance as everybody else. I mean, he has just been phenomenal. I mean, you watch some of the runs in that game, breaking tackles. I mean, I think he broke somewhere in the range of 6 tackles on one of those plays in that game. He was just unbelievable. That was definitely one of the better games on the slate. Now, going on again to some of the games last night, Purdue and Notre Dame. Now, I got to be honest, I was disgusted that this game was as close as it was in the first half. Purdue is one of the worst programs I've watched so far this year. Now, they definitely looked a lot better in that game against Notre Dame at the quarterback situation, but Notre Dame should have been blowing them out, blowing the doors off of them early in this game. I think you look at Notre Dame and Everett Golson, I alluded to it a little bit last week. Everett Golson, I really like how his passing game is progressing. He was such a one-dimensional player the last time around, could really only run the ball, but he's become such a versatile player now, and I think Notre Dame is in store for a really, really nice year. I think the way Everett Golson is looking, Notre Dame is going to have a really nice year. Now I'm going to go to the next one, UCLA and Texas, another good game. Brett Hundley, though, man, I was really worried about him. Taken out of the game in the first quarter. I believe he hurt his wrist, but he seems to be okay. I think that he's back on track to be playing this week. But UCLA, that was just a really tough win for your UCLA program. I mean, that was a close game until the end. You got to give UCLA a lot of credit for the grit they showed in that game. And UCLA has the toughest schedule in college this year. So for them to win that game, I mean, that is just showing the character of this team. Really hope Brett Hundley gets them back on track. Now let's keep on going, Rob. You and I were just talking about the USC and the Boston College game, and for me, extremely disappointing because I loved what I saw at USC the first 2 weeks. Steve Sarkisian against Fresno State, they looked really good. Then you see them again. I mean, I really like what I've seen out of this team. But Rob, for you, how disappointing is this for you for USC?
This is embarrassing because their first 2 wins were amazing, Joe. I thought this program was on the right track, going to go back to their years like 04 and 05, and just very disappointing. You don't need a loss like this to Boston College. I could see versus a ranked opponent, but not Boston College. Definitely need to win this game, and they just killed their hopes in the BCS.
Absolutely. The last game to go over is Tennessee and Oklahoma. Again, like I said, this wasn't the greatest weekend for college football. With this as the premier ESPN night game, not the best, but I mean, I'm a little bit more of a buyer on Oklahoma. I wasn't as big on Oklahoma as I at the beginning of the season, but I think you look at Trevor Knight and the way he's progressed in the passing game. He's not a one-dimensional player anymore. He can really make plays with his arm. I think that's huge for Oklahoma. And Oklahoma's just big on the defensive end. I mean, they have some really big guys on their defense. I think Oklahoma's definitely proving me wrong, and they're going to have a really nice year. So After that, I just want to go over the top 10 a little bit. Now, Florida State, Alabama, and Oregon are 1, 2, and 3. Florida State did not play this week, so obviously they stay at 1, but they play Clemson next week, and that's going to be a really interesting game because Florida State has not looked phenomenal. I mean, they've won both games, give them credit for that, but they haven't done it in the fashion you would think they would. You would think they'd be blowing these teams out. They've definitely shown a little bit of rust, and Clemson's going to be a tough game for them. So I'll definitely have to keep my eye on that one. Now, Alabama at 2, you got to keep them at 2, 3-0. This isn't the Alabama teams of the past, but they still look very good this year. Now, Oregon at 3. I think Oregon has a chance to definitely exceed Alabama. I think I would have probably kept them at 2, but Oregon played a nobody this week. But still, they're riding high off that big win against Michigan State. Oklahoma at 4, I think you keep them there. Now, Auburn is the one at 5. I think a lot of people are kind of ignoring Auburn, and I think you really cannot sleep on Auburn at all. Nick Marshall, you got to pay attention to him because you saw last year, all you saw from Nick Marshall was the read option. All he does is run the ball, throws the ball every now and then. He's really progressed in the passing game like Everett Golson. I mean, he's a much more comfortable in the passing game. Still has a lot of work to do, but he's definitely a more capable passer, and that's going to be huge for Auburn because they have phenomenal wide receivers. I really want to see what they look like this week against Kansas State. I think they'll blow the doors off Kansas State. I don't really like what I've seen from them, but I definitely don't think for a minute you should sleep on Auburn. Now, Baylor is 3-0. Baylor is one of those teams, I said it last year too. They haven't played anybody. I mean, they're winning these games, blowing teams out. They played Buffalo this week, blew the doors off of them, but Baylor hasn't played anybody yet. I'm still a little weary. If Baylor played an SEC opponent, I would take the SEC opponent because you just can't match the physicality of these SEC teams. Baylor, I like Bryce Petty. I think he's a good quarterback, but you just don't play the same type of opponents you do against the SEC. So Baylor, I'm a little weary on. I still got to see. Texas A&M and LSU. Rob, you were just saying you like Texas A&M a lot. I do as well. Can you see Texas A&M moving up the charts in the coming weeks?
I could see them going to 4 or 5. I just feel their offense has been on fire these
Kenny
first
Hill.
3 weeks. Yeah, he's been amazing. Great fill-in for Johnny Manziel. And I just have really high expectations. I see them falling to the 4 or 5 this year.
Nice. I agree. I like Texas A&M as well. The other team I really don't think that we should be sleeping on is LSU. Now, LSU ranked at 8. I definitely think they have a chance to move up. Now, they're going to lose a game or two. It's just the nature of the SEC. There's no one else who plays tougher games than the SEC opponents. LSU is going to lose a game, but I really like what I see out of them, especially on the defensive side of the ball. I'm still not sold on them at quarterback 100%. I think they lack a throwing game, but who does it? I mean, there's a lot of programs like that. But LSU, I'm definitely keeping my eye on. Now, Notre Dame, like I talked about before, I love what I've been seeing out of Notre Dame. I mean, Everett Golson, if he keeps playing the way he is, and his passing game the way it is, and is a threat to run, I think Notre Dame is going to continue to have a really good season. They're playing Syracuse. They should blow the doors off of Syracuse. And finally, at 10, UCLA. Now, UCLA, unfortunately, has the toughest schedule. They're going to lose a game eventually. But Brett Hundley, as long as he's their quarterback, they'll have a chance in all of these games. It's going to be really fun to keep on watching UCLA. Now, going over just quickly the next 5, you have Stanford at 15, Georgia at 14, Arizona State at 13, Mississippi at 12, and Michigan State at 11. I'm not crazy about Mississippi. Arizona State will win some games. Georgia, I still like. Todd Gurley is so good. As long as Booker Mason continues to improve in the passing game, Georgia will be okay. And Stanford, I'm a little bit weary of. But that's going to do it. Everything under the sun for college football. Not the greatest weekend. We're going to have a better weekend here. We will have a college football weekend preview show at some point in the week, so stay tuned for that. But that's going to do it for our college football segment. Stay with us, and when we come back, we're going to talk Team USA. If you can see on the live stream, I've actually got the Kyrie Irving Team USA 2014 FIBA jersey. Very nice to see our boys get it done, and we will be right back talking everything.